All right, everybody, we are live. Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. And today we have, hold on one second. My video is acting up, I think. But anyways, today we have the brother. Got a bunch going on over here. Sorry about that. All right. So today we have the brother Rodney Ahenkan on with us again. We had him on last week. A lot of people were saying that was the best video that I've ever done. We spoke on forex and cryptocurrency, but today we're going to speak on can Africa control its own economic destiny? I know last video we were kind of discussing the big players in regards to the U.S. and China, and I asked, well, where does Africa? What role will they play? And Rodney said they probably won't play a role. So we kind of want to unpackage that and kind of come up with the why Africa won't, I guess, play a role on a global level in regards to the economics. Am I correct? Did I say that right? The economy, or did I say that right?
No, yeah, I feel you. I mean, when I say that Africa won't play a role, it's not because I don't believe in Africa. It's not because I don't love Africa. I've had my fair share of interviews where my words have been twisted a little bit. And that's not what I was saying at all.
Okay.
It was just.
If I put words in your mouth, I apologize.
No, not you. Actually, your side. Our interview was great. I was like, man, this is good. I did another interview, and then people twisted and everything. So it's all good. Like you're great. I'll do interviews with you every single week. But what I meant is that I didn't want people to think that I'm anti-African when I said that statement. The reason why is because when you're looking at what the globe is trying to push for, with the recent bond between North Korea and South Korea being reestablished and Trump taking credit for all of that, that's where the focus is kind of going to be. And whenever I've seen Africa in dealings with public relations or world politics, Africa's, to me, has always seemed like they're being on like the receiving end. They're always welcoming and trying to appease the person coming in. And I've seen very little of them, putting their foot down to say, this is what we can do as one nation. This is what we can supply. This is where we want to take the world. Whereas it's kind of the other way around. You bring Obama in, hey, would you like a cup of coffee, cup of tea? What can we do for you? If George W., when he came, what can we do for you? We bow,
right.
We salute you. What can you do for us? It's never really been, this is what we can do for you. So that's why I say that, Africa won't play a role until that is kind of turned around to say, hey, you know what? We've got all the resources. We've got the brains. This Africa that the world sees us is not the Africa that we are. So until that's kind of on a level playing field, Africa won't really play a factor. They'll just be giving their resources without any sort of thought behind it.
Okay. Now, is this something we should blame Africans for, or African leadership for, as far as? Cause, I mean, we'll take Nigeria for example. Nigeria should be Dubai times 20, but they can't even have. Many people are out of energy, or they can't run energy for 24 hours straight. From what I understand, I've never been, but that's they have power issues.
Yeah, you'll experience that. Ghana's the same thing as well.
Ghana wasn't that bad. I was in Ghana. I mean, there was a power outage maybe when I was in Accra and Mobasi. I think there was a power outage maybe, out of the whole time I was there, maybe once for maybe like 10 minutes of even that. So it wasn't that bad.
Oh, okay. When I was there 5 years ago, it used to go on for days, sometimes weeks. But that's when there was a change of arms with the president and stuff. I was going to say, yeah, in terms of Nigeria being like the Dubai, even Ghana, like we recently discovered oil and everything like that. It probably does come and stem from the slave era kind of thing, where it's always been, we've come at the defense. We've never come as offense. You know what I mean? And like I said in the last video, it's kind of like the oppressors came in and said that, look, your resources that you have are worthless. So let's take those resources and put them to better use,
Right.
and he could have some chump change, while we continue with our agenda. So it's always been a matter of, if America plays nice and we're in the good books of America, then people will leave us alone. It's yeah. Sorry, go on.
Now, I think one of the issues too, in regards to Africa, is that we don't. Somebody brought up industrializing, and that Africa lacks industrialization. Is that something that needs to change ASAP, or is it something that Africa shouldn't worry about?
No, I think everything that Africa needs to get to the next level is there. I think what is the main issue with Africa is Africans.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is that it seems like to me, well, I can speak for Ghana history because I don't want to step on toes, but it's like every president that comes in wants to start on a new foundation. So it's not like building on the old foundation to see where the last president went wrong. It's kind of like, this is what I'm going to be doing in my term. Forget the stuff of old. This is what I'm going to be doing for 4 to 8 years. And if it doesn't work, then oh well, I tried. Mm-hmm. So, even in the Ghana community here, it's always been a matter of, I want to be the first and the only. I want to be able to be the pioneer of this. And if I don't, then no one else is going to be the pioneer. And that mentality has kind of seeped through, mixing in with the corruption that's happening. So, the president will look after his family and his cabinet, and he will take all the money that he needs to get, and then he will dip. And then you find that there's a massive economic crisis within the nation. So in saying all of that, I don't want this to be one of those, the white man did this and the white man did that, because we know the facts. We know what's happened to us. We know how long we've been oppressed for. We know these things. But in terms of maintaining and restoring, we're not doing a good job, because every Joe Blow wants to be the pioneer that led the restoration process instead of banding together, if you feel what I'm saying.
What can Africans do as far as dealing with bad leadership that's halting African growth as far as economically? Because that's what we hear.
It has to be addressed, really. It has to be, and it has to be dealt with in a manner that can enforce a change. I don't think looting and killing and the horrible things that were happening in South Africa with xenophobia and all that stuff, I don't think that is exactly the approach, even though I understood what they were trying to do, but the way they went about it was pretty vulgar. I don't know what can be done, because it seems like now it's the cycle that this is the job I want to get to, and I want to be president, because once I'm president, these are all the things that I can get. So maybe someone like yourself comes into office,
right?
Someone who identifies as an African, whatever the country is, and says, what, I see from the outside what is going on, and maybe they need an outside point of view to be able to steer them in the right direction. That could be one way. I don't know how that can be done, but you've seen cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle. The same guy comes in and says, I'll not be like that guy. He leaves, he ends up like that guy. So, that's the only way I can see that us who are Africans, or who identify ourselves to be Africans, go back, and say, look, this is the change that we want to see, and this is the change that we are going to enforce, rather than tell them what they need to do.
Okay. Now, since we're talking about controlling one's economic destiny, you brought up South Africa, land reform. Of course, the objection has been Africans pretty much, for the most part, aren't competent enough to even do as much as farm. Look at Zimbabwe. And this is kind of like a two-part question. If land reform takes place, I guess Africans get back control of the land. Do you think the West will place embargoes on them like they did Zimbabwe? And will South Africa turn into a Zimbabwe 2.0? Like, are we that incompetent where we can't do for self with our own land?
And no disrespect to Zimbabwe, I don't think any country can be a Zimbabwe 2.0.
Okay. Well, and let's after that, let's get into what really happened in Zimbabwe a little bit. But go ahead.
Got you. It is a very loaded question, and I think My central message and my central core with all of this is that we need to realize what we have. It's not that I wouldn't want to say that we are dumb. I wouldn't want to say that we are lazy, but there's this infatuation with someone outside who doesn't look like us that can do it better. So, for example, the Chinese. The Chinese come, they make it look nice, and they be like, man, these guys have got it. Let's let them do everything. Do you know what I mean? And then before you know it, they've taken over, and then they realize, oh my gosh, they took over. Now it's time to get our land back. But by that time, it's too late. They've already made deals with the government. They've already built schools. They've already had 3 or 4 generations of, the Chinese or the Japanese or whatever Asian ethnicity come through, and that's where the damage has taken place. Africa is too reactive. Do you know what I mean? They want to wait for problem to come before they say, oh, this is an issue. Do you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas they don't want to line up everything and say, okay, well, if we do this, then this is the possible consequence of this action. They're not forward thinking in that approach. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if there's ever been a time where something as innovative has come up and they're like, you know what, we're going to push for this agenda. It's more or less, whether it's land reforms or whether it's the economy, whether it's the governmental structure, it's always been reactive. And I don't know why that spirit or that attitude is there, but you can substitute your question to anything and you'll find that Africans lack in that area. But there's no action for it. And I don't know why. I can't answer that. I'm at a loss for words because I see from the outside, I'm just like, am I the only one that sees that there's something wrong with this?
Right.
You know?
Right now, Zimbabwe, what actually happened there? If you know.
I mean, I've heard.
Was it sanctions more than anything, or like what?
Sorry, what was that?
Was it sanctions you think that really tore Zimbabwe apart, and or what do you think the main underlying issues were with Zimbabwe?
I think it started off with good intentions, but then as power grew, the need to stay in power overrode the fact that the people were going to put to the side to fulfill one's ego. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because back in the times of old, we call him Uncle Mugabe. He was a revolutionary. You know what I mean? And I found that most of the African countries actually liked him, except for Zimbabwe. Do you know what I mean? Because of his message. I don't know what the translation was between his people and the other countries of Africa, but what he stood for initially was something that gave people a stem of hope. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what fell through the cracks for it to just go the other way. And there's all these theories and there's all these assumptions of what happened. But at the end of the day, I think it was one man's will to stay in power over taking care of his people.
Okay, so say Africa, I guess, industrializes and starts to process its own. We'll just say diamonds. We'll say diamonds, like we spoke on before. Diamonds come from Africa. Raw diamonds leave Africa, go to Belgium somewhere, come back as Tiffany's, marked up 100%, 100 times. But people are so caught up in brands now that that can happen. Say we start to process our own products. From what I'm noticing, Africans don't really find value in their own brands.
Nope.
So if we process our own diamonds and name them, I don't know, Accra diamonds, do you think not only Africans, but people outside of Africa will find value in them?
I don't think Africans will find value until they see that other people find value in it. First, you know what I mean? Like I said before, there's an infatuation with the Westerner making something and they say this is good. And my dad is a classic example where, he's had this same old TV for about, I think 12 or 13 years. And he goes, when I go to Ghana and I retire, in my later stages, I'm going to take this TV with me because this is the proper TV. This TV is a box, right? He likes the flat screen, but it's a massive box. And I said, Dad, there are heaps of TVs that you can get in Ghana. He goes, in Ghana, there's never a proper TV. They always break. So if he's thinking this mentality and he's been in Australia for 30 years plus, then you can see where there'll be possible issues down the road if something's manufactured in Africa and no one buys it, because no one's going to accept their own. I don't know why.
Now, what role do you think the diaspora will play in regards to just Africa's economic destiny? Do you think African nations are going to start like formally, if they haven't already, reaching out, or is it just kind of like, they'll try to figure it out on their own, or trust China or non-African institutions to help them out, which I think will be crazy?
Gee, I hope not. I see that being more of a possibility than anything. But I hope they don't go in the direction of getting outside help where we're more than capable of doing so. A couple of suggestions, but I don't even see that being practical. Maybe forming our own currency, one currency. We have a passport that governs all of Africa. We become more of a one unit than anything. You can see already that there are issues with that, because a two-headed monster, a two-headed dragon is a monster, whatever that saying is. Who would be the highest point of that hierarchy if Africa became one? Who would be the president of Africa? And if you then insinuate that Africa will be one nation, but then there will be regions, then you might as well just keep the country separate and just continue doing what it is that we're doing. So I would like to have some form of African union where we realize, I'm from Ghana, but if there's some dope products in Nigeria, let me just head on down and work with them and circulate that around all of Africa. Truth be told, do you see that happening?
I think it can. I just, it's just the leadership we have. I don't know, man. It's just I'm just all the way across the board disappointed with African leadership. Just, I don't. The question is, do they want to see it happen?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what do you think African leaders are trying to accomplish? Like, what are they doing?
Nothing. They want to get in. They want to be on TV. They like to say all these speeches and use their big English to say that they're educated. They want to show their wife and their children about how much, how far they've coming from the village, working their way up. Now they're the president of their country. And then when they've done their time, you don't hear from them. There's no form of progress at all. Their biggest goal in life is to be president so they can say, you know what, I made it. And then they can dip and then they can die happy because everybody loves them for that, term, or those 2 terms or 3 terms. I haven't seen for a long time. I mean, what was the last big leader that caused a change? You can go back to Kwame Nkrumah, but there's controversy around him where people had to fight to get his bones out from another African country to bury him in our own. So it goes to show you what we think of our own people, and that's when if I can digress for a bit, when I was trying to say, let's form a unity first in another interview and be one people first. So when the outsider looks at us, they can say, yes, we can respect these people. That's the road I was trying to go down. When you asked me this question a couple of days ago, I was perplexed, bro.
No. I mean, it's a tough question, and I don't know. I just don't understand why the African leaders aren't. I think they're just not innovative on purpose. Like it's done purposely. Like it's like they want to sabotage. You ever seen it's a very popular movie in America back when I was little. It's called Major League. Are you familiar with that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. So you had the woman who was the owner of the Cleveland Indians, and she just wanted her team to lose on purpose. Like I just, it's just she just wanted them to lose. Like that's how I feel African leaders are. They just want us to lose.
If you break it down, I mean, that culture's in families, bro. If you want to be real, like there can only be one head, there can only be one breadwinner, there can only be one star. Like it's gone back. It's whatever's happened at the top has trickled down to all these individuals where family members are practicing voodoo on each other just so they can try and one up each other. Like that's how far back we have gone. So can Africa do it? Yes. Will it? Until guys like you come in and overthrow these people, Africa is going to stay the same for the next 50 years.
Really? You really think so?
Bold statement. But I mean, look at the cycle that we've generated. If you're born in an environment and you see that environment, you'll see that environment to be normal. So the next president that's going to come in, they're going to think that whatever the president did before him was normal. So let me just sit back, let me do radio interviews, TV, let me dress in the latest thing, let me go to expensive dinners, let me leave and say I was the president.
Wow.
That's the cycle.
Wow. Let me ask you, are you familiar with Rwanda at all? Like, because I mean, that's like the example that everybody's using as far as progress in Africa is Rwanda. What are your thoughts on like Rwanda as far as economically?
I don't think anything much of Africa economically. I put it all as a whole. I know Rwanda is a case study, but like, pair it up against the US dollar, it's still nothing. You know what I mean? So there's still a long way to go. And I only use the US dollar because it's the most traded currency in the world. So even pair it up to the rupee, it's still minuscule.
Nah, the Africa. Come on, now we'll take the rand for example. You're saying the rand is weaker than the rupee?
Let's look at the conversion now.
Okay, that's a good question. Let's look at the conversion. South African rand to the Indian rupee. Let's see what we got. So one South African rand equals 5.36 rupees.
Okay, so maybe rupee was an out there example, but
well, let's see here. Let's look at the SAFA. Right. Are you familiar with the SAFA?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. I didn't trade it.
Yeah. Well, the SAFA is just so the SAFA is trash. So one SAFA equals 12 cent, I guess, 0.12 rupee. So yeah, the SAFA is it's trash.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. So you're familiar with the SAFA? You are somewhat, or
yeah, I am.
Okay, so I was in France, right, and I had some SAFA on me, and I'm like, in fact, I was in Morocco. This happened in Morocco too. So I'm thinking, okay, well, this is the central, African, all the Francophone countries, they use this, so they have to. I was thinking I could spend this SAFA or at least exchange it in France because the Central African franc. I pulled out that SAFA. The people in the airport in France, so I forgot the name of the airport, but they looked at me like, "What is this?" I said, SAFA, it's Central African franc. He said, "What is that? We don't take that." So I was in Morocco, same thing. They said, "We don't take that." Like, you can't use SAFA outside of the countries that use the SAFA. I don't even know how you would be able to. Well, you have to exchange it before you leave that country.
Exactly. You either exchange it there or exchange it for another currency within Africa that's pretty much more well known. Maybe the equivalent or the easiest one would be the rand, and then switch the rand over to something else before you can go there. And by the time you've done that, you've lost the value in the initial amount anyway, with all the fees that you're using to transact. So, Africa is a sad story because we all have so much love for Africa, and we all want the best for Africa, but the leaders who are in the land don't want the best for Africa. It's the sad case.
How do you feel about the African Union in regards to its role?
What the one that's current right now?
Yeah, the African Union.
Has it done much?
I mean, I no. I mean, I know of, unless it's something I just don't know about.
I don't even know what their latest proposal was. They.
I think like a one central passport. They keep talking about that. Outside of that, I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, ideas are great, and Africans are good at ideas, but when it comes to implementation, that's where we lack. What's next after the passport? Are they going to suggest a currency? Okay, then what do we do about the currency? And where's our central bank? And
I mean, so you have I don't know what's after like I said, I know the passport, and I know. Oh, let's talk about this. I think we might have spoke about this last. In fact, I don't think we spoke about this last time. The whole free trade. Are you familiar with that?
The free trade agreement?
Yes.
Yeah.
In
We didn't speak about that.
Did we talk about that?
No, we didn't.
Do you know much about it?
Like somewhat, like I think every political party seems to have their idea of what it is. I'm not sure about Africa's influence in it though, if they even have any.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of talk between Australia and America in regards to it, and it affected a lot of jobs here in regards to that. So I'm not sure if it affects Australia. Then I'm not even sure if Africa's in the equation.
Mm-hmm. What about Libya? Now, from my understanding, the reason why Gaddafi was taken out was because he was wanting to create its own, I guess, back the dollar with by the gold standard. I guess.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question. He was a good case study. It's sad that you get to know a lot of things that he had done after he had died. And it's so sad to see how he died. Apparently, when you're newly married, you get grants to start off with your first home. All these amazing things, and I guess America were like, you know what? Nope. But since the beginning of time, Libya has been a force. It's been a dramatic force. The North Africans were very pivotal in early church history, early Muslim history, and so they're not just a country. They are light bearers, I guess, and so that's why you see that there's so much controversy around them. What Gaddafi did for Libya was amazing, from what I read and what I saw, and dare me to say it, if there were more people that thought like him, then Africa would be a lot further along than where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Controversial. I mean, I know he did some other stuff, that was hey, but in terms of how people benefited then, from what I heard with scholarships and grants and home loans and less tax and all that stuff, it's just like great. I would have moved there. You know what I mean? I just don't know what happened. But apparently there was something that I read a couple of days ago about there are only like 3 or 4 countries that don't have any connection to America whatsoever when it comes to economics. And Libya was one of them. Iran, I think, or Iraq was one of them. And then South Korea was another one as well.
That never had connections to America, or did, or does?
No, something to do with them not being under the American rule. I think to do with their banking or something like that.
Was it, everybody says the Rothschilds?
Yeah. Something to do with that. I read that just briefly. So it made sense as to why Libya was always a target, and Syria as well. But yeah, trust me. When you asked me this, I was like, boy, like this is a mouthful, because where do we even start? And if we even make the suggestions on how to build a greater Africa, where do we even start? How do we get there?
Yeah, because I see all these I don't know what's going on in Eritrea. Somebody said speak on the Eritrean situation. Do you know something going on there?
Isn't there a civil war at the moment over there?
I thought they were always at war, damn near.
Yeah, but apparently it can't get any worse than, I guess, Sudan. But apparently it's really, really bad. Like people are leaving off boats like all the time. I don't know too much on the situation. I'm not educated in that area, but I know that it's a pretty volatile situation right now. Man, I wait for Africa, bro.
Say that one time.
I said I wait for Africa. This talk is actually making me more sad for Africa.
Oh man, we gotta stay positive. I mean, we gotta stay positive. I mean, well, okay. With that being said, obviously I'm a Black American. Supposedly, the spending power of Black America is supposed to be like $1 trillion or something like that. Do you think Africa is doing itself a disservice by not reaching out to Black America? I mean, I think about all the institutions we built. Black Americans have built a ton of institutions in Africa and in Ghana. Do you think Africa needs to do a better job engaging Black Americans?
Yes, once Africa realizes that they have a problem. At the moment, Africa doesn't think they have a problem. The other thing that I want to mention is as well, which is pretty controversial in the sense where since this whole rise of African American, a lot of people from America don't like that term. They'll be like, "Don't call me that. I'm not from Africa." So I'm not sure. Have you come across people like that?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
So, okay, let me digress for 2 minutes. What are your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of them are delusional, and also too. I mean, the argument is, we've been over here now. Let's see here. The first slaves came over here maybe in the 1500s, and Africa has not sent not one boat or canoe to come over here and rescue us. Or you have to understand. I think just about every African country they have the embassy in DC or New York. Right. And they are not engaging Black America at all. So a lot of them are just like, fuck it, Right. And now they're saying they're Hebrew Israelites and indigenous to America now. That's where we're at now. Because it's more sexy, I guess. So and then with all the images that we see of Africa, and then with Africans wanting desperately to come to America, they're just like, fuck it.
Yeah, definitely. So back to your question. Africa doesn't think it has a problem. I really think that. I really think they think that they're fine the way they are because the guys in power, they're comfortable. What do they need? What do they need help for? They're getting fed. They're getting the money that they need. So,
what percentage of Black Americans really care about Africa? Not a lot. I could definitely. It's definitely maybe 1%, if even that.
Do you find there to be a sort of a friction between those African Americans that identify themselves to be African descent and those who don't want anything to do with Africa? Is there a friction between?
I don't think it's not really a friction at all. No, it's just like whatever, Okay. You identify as you and I identify as me because we still we still share that I guess we still can relate as being Black American. So I don't think so. It's just maybe there's friction in regards to the Black Americans who don't identify as African, encouraging them to actually go to Africa or engage Africa. There's a friction for that in regards to that, but so no, not
Are you the one of thought of Dr. Umar?
Umar Johnson, yeah. What about him?
Yeah. He resonates with my soul. I listen to him a lot. I'm like, you know what? This guy makes points.
Yeah. Umar's huge, man. Yeah, Umar is big. So what about in I would say consider investing in Africa. Buying land. I definitely want to do real estate in Senegal. I'm not too big on Ghana. Okay, you're Ghanaian.
Yeah.
I still don't understand how this 99-year lease works. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it. I mean, my mom's got a couple of properties as well. It pretty much means that you own that plot for 99 years, and if you die, the ones who are beneath you, provided that they're in the will, they own that. My mom recently told me a couple of months ago when she was there that if you have that 99-year lease, but there's no beneficiary and you die, that goes back into the hands of the seller.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But there's all this shady stuff. I mean, people buy land, and like just say from overseas, we buy land. We think that we have the land, but before you know it, that land has been sold to someone else. So you have the paperwork, But by the time you get there, that land is already gone. Someone else has already bought it. So it's kind of weird in that sense.
Well, they were saying like the number one cause of like murder is land disputes in Ghana or something like that.
Yeah,
Or
heavy. Families go to war because of land.
goodness.
Heavy. Yeah.
Are you familiar with I think it's called the Finacra Project, Fincara Project? Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not actually. No.
No. Okay. Um, so as far as the economic destiny, what should be the outlook, just if any at all? Like what can Africans prepare for as far as their economy in the next, we'll say 20 years? Because they were saying, I mean, people have been saying that Africa is like the youngest continent when it comes to its people, like, in regards to millennials. So what would be the outlook for them in the next 20, like we'll say 15 to 20 years?
I mean, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
The millennials need to really have a drive to change the land. If all of us millennials can buy a massive plot of land each, we've pretty much own half of Africa, because land comes with power. So we need to come to a point where, like I said in the beginning, that we need to come back in and kind of overthrow the guys that are there, because it's not going to change. If they're born there, they're bred there, they're going to think like them, they're going to act like them, they're going to reason like them, nothing's going to change. So the outlook is two scenarios. It stays the same, and in 10 years' time, me and you will get back on the podcast and we weep for Africa that nothing's changed, and we wish that we made that change. Or the millennials come back in and say, hey, we might not think like you or reason like you, we might not even be born there, but we have an interest in preserving something for our children, and that means a hostile takeover, pretty much.
Right.
Get it.
Well, so let me ask you this: how would I don't know if we should have this conversation online, but you keep saying taking over. Like, what would be how would a hostile takeover? I mean, how can I put it? How would a takeover look like in Africa? That won't be considered a coup, because you keep saying takeover. And
exactly how the Chinese do it. They come in, they buy a couple of pieces of land, give the government money. Oh, we like you. And then, before you know it, ship all the people that are your allies, or fly them over and settle there, and, pretty much fight for every corner of the city. And then, the town, then the neighborhood, then the country. That could be one approach. It would have to be something by force. A good prophet or son of God, as Jesus says, the righteous take it by force, man. He wasn't always, just being nice to people. He flipped tables and cracked whips to cause a change. And I think that's what we need to do, and be like, hey, you guys are playing games in a country that God gave us. Whether you believe in the same God that we believe in, a creator gave us this land, and you've given it to someone else to mind it for you. First commandment was be fruitful, multiply, take dominion of this land.
Right.
And you haven't been useful with your resources. So those who have the capacity to do so, I encourage any young person, young being, the 18 to the 35 bracket, which is a lot of us, to really think about doing that, having that interest in, going back, securing a peace, and causing the change from the inside instead of protesting from the outside.
Now, can one make a big impact economically on Africa from the outside? Do you think you need to be on the ground in Africa?
Well, outside for sure, but you have to see where the money is circulating to. So you don't want a situation where you invest $1 million into Senegal, and then Senegal is going to buy something outside of Senegal. You want to keep the money rotating in the country for the economy to get stronger. If that happens, then that's great.
Now, in Mbasa 7A1 says the West and China won't let Africa control its own destiny. Now, of course, people say that the West pretty much controls Africa. How would Africa go about controlling its own destiny and without West and China interfering?
Probably not depend on them as much. They fly in with a briefcase to say, here, give us your schools, give us your land, and we'll make Africa better. And they'll be like, yep, thank you, we'll take the money. So if we turn around and say, hey, we don't need your money, we're good, even though we're struggling inside, and we utilize the resources that we have. I mean, if we all, instead of importing cars from Japan or cars from Europe, and decide to say, hey, new law, everyone's buying a car that's manufactured and made in Africa, the economy would shoot through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if we focus more internally than having to think, oh man, the Chinese are going to help us, or the Americans are going to help us. It's like begging for bread in a sense. If we stop doing that, then have a greater shot.
And of course, me and you, we've discussed what was it called? Kataka, the car.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an example of us just not supporting our own brands.
Yeah, exactly right.
From my understanding, the guy he's self-educated. He does TVs as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing.
Imagine if one person decided, I'm going to get one of those products.
Mm-hmm.
Economy will just circle around. Takes money to make money, but if we keep spending it and keeping the money inside, then we'll do good. But if you're spending it on private jets and flying everywhere, and getting your wife some clothes from London and high-end stuff, it's meaningless.
What about let's speak on Nana Nkrumah. Why was he overthrown? I know this was shifting the gears a little bit, but I'm gonna tie it back into the economics. Why was he? Now there was a coup. He was involved in the coup, right?
Yeah.
What do you know? Like exactly what the reason was for, or?
Well, no one knows the exact reason, but all I can say is I believe he was way ahead of his time, and the people around him couldn't see what he could see.
When you say ahead of his time, like how, like what?
I think he was so forward thinking that it seemed blasphemous against his own people, of what he was trying to accomplish in that time. Like if you think and speak outside of a realm that's unfamiliar, they look at you like you're crazy, or like you're possessed or something. And I believe, from the early accounts of what I heard, people didn't think that he was okay up in the head, which is why he was pretty much considered a reject. And for the longest time, his body wasn't even accepted to come back to be buried in Ghana. So I think if he was that forward thinking according to history, but couldn't articulate himself in a manner that his people could understand, then that could have been the thing that really drove the wedge between them.
Now, what was he in regards to economics? What was he articulating?
He wanted more, according to history, more of a union. He saw what the whites were doing, so he was more or less trying to say, "Hey, let's band together," instead of the traditional way of fighting. But the guys at the time didn't really want that. I don't know what they wanted. I myself, as a Ghanaian, should brush up on my history a little bit more, to be honest. But when I sat with some elders, I remember them saying, "Man, like, why did it take so long for his body just to come back to Ghana?"
Right.
All he was trying to do was do some form of unity, and that's where I was getting that oral tradition of sitting down at the elders' feet and listening into their points of view. Points of view can't be considered history unless it's written in a history book. So no one really knows what really happened in that circle. Only them, I guess.
That's crazy. Now, if Nana Nkrumah wasn't, I guess, overthrown, do you think Ghana would be in a better position today?
I don't know. Probably gonna say no.
Why do you say that?
Ghana was the first African country below the Sahara to gain independence. But in terms of forward thinking, they're way behind. They're more behind than most of the other African countries there are.
How? Break that down. How? It can't be worse than Nigeria.
Or besides jollof, but the example of the car brand that you were talking about,
right?
Like, if there are any Ghanaians in the chat, maybe you guys can testify. But Ghanaians don't want good for people at all. They don't want their own to succeed on any level. You know what I mean? Not sure how it is in Nigeria or in South Africa or Ethiopia or any other country, but Ghanaians, they hate to see a brother succeeding. They hate it. And so if that mentality is seeping through, and that's seeped through from the days of Kwame Nkrumah, then no matter what the outcome would have been, it would have been the same. Pull him down. That's what we say. Ghanaians have a PhD in everything. Pull him down.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. What? That's just it's. We got to end this on a good note, man. I mean, we got.
No, it's.
I mean, we got to end this on a good note somehow.
I was sad. I was like, man, like there's so much to discuss. There's so much optimism that's there. There's so many things that we can be positive for, but we have so many years to undo pain and undo mentalities, and you know, it's where do you even start? You know, that if someone can enlighten me on that, that would be a good place to go to.
Now, Deepak says that Africa has a crab in a barrel mindset. I mean, that's something that's like everywhere.
I think Africans play it up a lot more, though.
You think it's worse?
Look, I think it's safe for us to say this because we are African. You know what I mean? We've experienced it firsthand. So it's not like I hate my own people. I hate my own culture. This is experienced. You know what I'm saying? So if that can be removed, like if Africa can be like how me and you are, you know what I mean? We don't believe in the same thing. All right. We don't talk the same. But this sort of flow and this sort of cohesion that we have, and we barely even know each other. Imagine if that was there with 14, 15, 20 million people. Make a difference.
Right, a huge difference. But the saying is, all you need is 300. That's what the saying is. 300 like minds, and you can get shit done.
Boy, you have to find those 300 in every single African country.
They're out there. It's just I guess we're splintered, I guess, but they're definitely the 300 is definitely out there lurking somewhere.
Well, you have an amazing platform for that. Maybe the 300 are in this call. I
know, right? Hopefully I've had some bright minds on this platform. Some very bright minds. I had the brother Josiah on. I got to get you connected with Josiah as well. You know, I've had some bright minds on here. So you know, hopefully they will pass through here, and you know, we get to have the conversation. Somebody in the chat room says Nigeria is going to be the next global power. Well, Buhari, he's back in. Seth, go ahead, ask a question, Seth. Go ahead and type the question, Seth. Well, you know, Buhari, I think he's headed back to England for to seek medical help, and I know the elections are next year, so hopefully, you know, hopefully get it together. Nigeria, I'm looking forward to going to Nigeria. I'm looking forward to going to Nigeria in August. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'd really love to go. I'd really love to travel more. Myself and my partner. Just travel the world and just see what we can do to be stewards with our gifts and with our talents, and see if we can put a little drop in the ocean.
Now Ghana has oil. How do you think that's going to benefit Ghana?
They had cocoa. They have gold. If they haven't learned their lessons the first two times with how they handled those things, then I weep for oil. You know what I mean? Like that's something that you can really hold to your chest and you know build Ghana the way you want to build it. But I don't know. I don't know what's with Africa or Ghana, I should say. You know, mishandling their resources. I can't make predictions based on things that haven't been repeated. Even with Forex, history repeats itself. So if I see an uptrend in this area and it's going to continue, and if I notice every April something like that happens in the Forex market, it's going to be the same for culture.
All right, here we go. Let's see here. So Seth says, if you claim Ghanaians have a pull him down mentality, how come we have the fastest growing economy in Africa?
See, I'm not saying that Ghanaians are bad. What I am saying is that it gets to a level, whether it's within the family or within a community, where when people succeed, instead of rejoicing and being happy for an individual, it's like there's a level of sabotage that occurs. I'm not talking about even with the economy. I'm going to ask the question, what have we done with our economy? We should be able to use that economy and steer it in the right direction to evoke change. What I am saying is a mentality that's been experienced, that whenever there's a position of power, the person who has that position of power thinks about self rather than other people. Whereas if it was reversed, then change could come. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. I'm not dissing Ghana. Forever Ghanaian over here. But I can only speak on what I know. And I know what I speak on is uncomfortable, but it's something that we all have experienced in one way or another. But when we get on platforms, we're too afraid to speak about them. So I'm not discounting the fact that Ghana has made advances. You've mentioned, the brands that Ghana has as well. But at the same time, why isn't that brand, if we are so fast in economics, why isn't that brand held to the highest esteem?
Right.
I mean, why isn't that synonymous with our economy? Why? Because it came from Ghana. We want to rather invest in a Mercedes-Benz or a Bentley than something that is out in our own. That's where I'm going with it. So appreciate your question, man.
No problem, no problem. Yeah, dude, Rodney, tell everybody what you do and how they can get in contact with you, and then we'll go ahead and close out as well.
What I do? Well, I'm a preacher.
The forex and the investment.
Yeah, well, I preach the gospel. I say that first and foremost. No white Jesus, no white Jesus. We say that if this was white, then you are delusional. I'd actually like to get on a call with you, maybe even in private, and discuss what I think about the black roots of Christianity.
Okay, we could do that. Absolutely. In fact, if you want to, we could do it on here or in private. It's up to you.
Oh, I'm down for it. Because it's kind of disheartening to know that, oh, you're a black man, you're a Christian, and they'll automatically think, he likes a white lord. No. It ain't about that. But I understand that. You go to a Korean church, there's a Korean Jesus. A Vietnamese church, Vietnamese Jesus. But I don't think it is geographically possible for Jesus to be white in any setting. You know what I mean? So,
and like I tell people, when I went to Ghana, I just saw nothing but pictures of obviously no confusion, white Jesus everywhere.
Yeah. My grandma was the same. I'm just like, Granny, why, Granny? But I also believe that God doesn't speak in color, but He speaks in power. You know what I mean? So I like the prophetic movement, which is being able to look at someone's situation. Be prayerful, counsel, and be more realistic with your Christianity, not the I'm going through something, brother. Okay, I'll pray for you. No, if they're going through something, pray for them there and then. Right. Or if you're in the means to, give them money, and then give them the money. Don't be so religious. But yeah, that's a conversation for another time. What I really do is Forex. I trade for a 9-figure company, mentoring about 150, but obviously feeding 70,000 people with my signals and my analysis. So that's what I do. That's my full-time job. Love it all. But one thing I do love is connecting with guys like you, man. You have, you don't even know how much of a prayer answer you have been. But yeah.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Good. It's been good. It's been a ride.
I appreciate it, man. But yeah, and also tell everybody where they can contact you, where they can reach.
Okay, so just contact me on Facebook. I've maxed out on friends, so just give me a follow, message me if you have any questions, want to know more about Forex, want to know more about faith. A couple of people on your show actually messaged me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, about the faith aspect, not even about the Forex. So okay. You are a bridge to many. Yeah, connect with me there, and yeah, happy to chat with whoever about anything.
All right, cool, perfect. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you guys like the videos. Make sure you share as well. Make sure you subscribe if you're new to this platform. Also go to search for Huru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Go to Africa Personified on those same platforms. Make sure you go to africapersonified.africa, search for huru.com, dynastyamir.com, and amazon.com. Search your name, Dynasty Amir. Please buy a book. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back on maybe later on tonight. If not, for sure, I know I am on again tomorrow. So till next time, everybody, Rodney, thank you for coming on. Peace.
Thanks for having me, man.
No problem.